Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen. Today, in the proposition side, we stand on the side that believes that military trials are the best mechanism in order to assess the evidence and the actions made by terrorists. And also because terrorists are not part of that society of which legal system they are using to prosecute them. They are not part of the US nation, and they are not citizens, and they cannot be judged at a civilian court. And Arya told us that the last and most important advantage of judging them at civilian courts is that terrorists are going to feel rejected by society. But they are not even part of this society. They are not even part of the American society, and they don't even care at all about that society. It is precisely because they don't recognize anything that comes from this society, not the judicial apparatus, as you mentioned, that they cannot be judged because they do not form part of the social contract of that state. They are not part of that society and cannot be judged under the schemes and social contracts that are implemented. In order to prove our case, we came up with three main arguments. The first one has to do with the fundamental similarities between armies and terrorists. A terrorist is an actor, an international actor that prosecutes an end. Also, the army doesn't. And the army prosecutes the ideals of France. And yes, my teammate misspoke, but what we meant was that yes, in the end, the French army wants to make something, and the actors are the army, the soldiers. In the same way, the terrorists are the actors of mainly their own state that they want to create, or their own principles that they want to assess. It is precisely because they have fundamental similarity with the state, with their own beliefs, ideology, and a system that they want to enforce, that they want to prevent. Yes, madam.
How are they very similar if you're saying that terrorists do not belong to a state, or do not believe the state belongs to a state where the military do?
No, they belong to their own state. It is precisely terrorism is the cause that pursues the creation maybe of a state or the creation of a society. They are an organization. Maybe just because of size, we don't call them states. But for some, and for their own, they are states. The fact that we do not recognize them doesn't mean that they do not act as these international actors, which are fundamental in dealing with international law. And this led to our second argument, which was about the difference between international law and national law. And basically, we don't care in a trial of terrorism if the United States democracy believes something. What we care about is the principles of international law that are being violated. And these principles are kind of universal. We assert that the countries, and therefore what was breached in this case, was the national security of such a nation. Therefore, as one of your rebuttal points was that they were international actors, that they should be judged, according to the law of the nation. But when they breach the national security, they become a matter of the military. They can be assessed and evaluated, no thank you, sir, under the military tribunal. And it's precisely because we believe it is in the right of the military to prosecute them, and also because they are the ones that are specialized in applying international law. The best mechanism to apply terrorists is through military tribunals. And this leads to our third point, which is having a fair trial for terrorism, or at least the fairest choice. And we strongly believe that the solution to this is again the military tribunal. But before I get into my substantive, I will present some further rebuttal to their case. And first thing, Bernardo talked to us about military tribunals being biased. And he assumed that just because it was an aggressive environment, they were biased. Okay? Aggressive environment is what you're going to see in the trial of Sheikh Mohammed in New York. Why? Because everybody saw the Twin Towers fall September 11. And everybody in New York, which actually, according to your civilian court, the jury will have gone from New York. And everybody in New York will be biased, I'll take it in a second, will be biased towards accepting them as not guilty. And the reason why is they are not even going to hear the claims of the terrorists that might be presenting their own ideologies. Yes, madam?
It will be exactly the same thing if there was a serial killer that was in New York. The jury would have the same effect.
It's not the same. The scale of this event, you cannot compare a serial killer to 9/11. Ask the families of 9/11. Ask the jury, and they're going to tell you that it is not the same. This was something that happened not only to a building, This was something that attended to the morale and the ethics of a country, of a nation, and the feelings of all its citizens. This is precisely because it is going to affect them so much, they're going to be even more biased than their presumption on a military force. And Bernardo just said that because of this aggression, we in the military were, biased. And maybe we have some mistakes, like, presuming that they are guilty. But this is only a scheme that allows us to be a fitter organism. Because what? By only having by not having a defendant, the prosecution side will have to prove and analyze even better the evidence to prove that the individual is guilty. Even if we assert initially that he is guilty, of course we make an investigation. Don't you think that we spend a lot of money in the CIA? Well, it is used for these kind of things. In Guantanamo Bay, that 603 stayed for 6 years, and yes, they were assessed. In the end, they went out, and they are back home. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, no, thank you, sir. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is about presenting an accurate mechanism. And lastly, they talked to us about, the difference between these civilian courts and military courts. I'm going to talk to you further about this during my point. The first possible trial. How can we have a fair trial? Because even if we assert that he's guilty, even if he himself asserts that he's guilty, talking about the Mohammed case of the mastermind of the 9/11 attacks, well, it is precisely because he asserts it, and because we're going to challenge more the prosecution in providing evidence and providing specific information in why he is guilty. Moreover, we believe that the individuals carrying out the military trial are trained and specialized compared to the biased jury that Team Proposition is presenting. They're specialized and trained, I'll take it in a second, into assessing this information and international law. Yes.
If it's an attack to the people of that place as opposed to the military, why shouldn't the people be the ones?
Yes, but the one that represents the people is government. But the one that represents the government in the case of national security turns out, Bernardo, to be the military. That is why we believe it is in the right of the military to assess this case. Not only that, but also further, precisely because you mentioned that it affects so much people, we believe they are going to be so biased that any assessment will come out in the most unfair way. Thank you for that point. Then, moreover, we believe that there is a scrutiny in military trials. We do not ignore this. That is precisely what, in the trial of al-Nashiri, the terrorist that attacked the U.S. school in Yemen in the year 2000, he himself recognized again that the investigation was consistent with his declaration of being guilty. And he was judged in a military apparatus. Why? Because the military is the one that should do this, because they have the right to do so, and also because it is the fairest system and the indicated one into prosecuting terror. It is on this ground that I beg you to oppose the motion.